Hello and welcome back to Buck the Trend podcast. I'm Matt Nartiv.
And I'm Steph Clutterbuck.
So here we go, week 11, episode 11.
Yeah,
Uh,
how fun.
yeah, so if you listened last week, you'll have known that I took part in the Bath Half Marathon. You'll be glad to hear that I did. Did we speak about negative split in it? I know I spoke to you about it, Steph, but I don't know if I spoke about it on the podcast. But my plan was to essentially negative split it because my last half marathon I did when I wasn't very fit. I drastically, kind of the mushroom cloud blew up. And it was a horrible last 10K to the finish. So, I sort of stepped my way through into this one. Ticked off 1 hour and 32, which I was more than happy with. I would have taken a 1 hour 35 at the start of the day. So and now we go again for next week or this week now. I have Head of the River, a big rowing race coming up on the Saturday, and then Reading Half Marathon on the Sunday. So keep your eyes peeled for that, and I will inform you about how they go, and probably with a similar aim if I can get my legs back in time.
Two things, just quickly. Number one, as a spectator, it is so much more pleasant when the person that you're following on the tracker negative splits. Because I'm sure we've all been there watching people do like an Ironman or a 70.3, and the tracker says that you were due at a checkpoint 6 minutes ago and you haven't quite made it through. And you worry, right? You're just stressed because you're like, well, they're by the side of the road. That's it. They're done. We're not going to see them again. Whereas when you negative split, you're getting there before. So it was wonderful. It was so stress-free. So thank you for that. Thank you for making my Sunday much less stressful. I know that's why you exist. And also, can you actually tell people about what Head of the River is? Because they probably don't know.
Yeah. So firstly, with Head of the River is probably the biggest eight man or woman, but it's men's head. So the women's head was 2 weeks ago, I think now. And essentially it's probably the biggest head race of the season in terms of sort of the winter patch for rowing is sort of the long head race style time trials. And then you go into the summer racing, which is the side by side, usually
So the head race is a time trial. So crews are set off at either 30-second or 1 minute intervals, and you race over a predefined stretch. And it's one crew at a time. There is the racing line, there's the overtaking line. Well, it's actually the being overtaken line. And yeah, they're long. They're long stints, right?
And they'll be even longer this weekend. So having the head race course is basically the boat race course, which most people will be familiar with. So the Oxford versus Cambridge boat race, it's the same course, just reversed. And there are probably, I think, usually around 400 plus crews. So if you think 400 plus crews of 8 people in a cox, so there's 9 people per boat. That's quite a lot of people on one stretch of water at one time. And there's only really one river. There aren't many rivers you could do that in this country. So it's obviously on the Thames course. So it's quite a spectacle. It's good fun. Like I said, I've raced many times before. I've actually won it.
Big deal.
Yeah, which was good fun. We definitely won't be doing that this year. In fact, I think we're starting 218th, which is going to be not what I'm used to. And like I say, the last time I raced this race was 2019, maybe. I think I raced it post-retirement. I say retirement, post-finish.
You did. Yeah, first year after.
So I'd finished rowing and I jumped back in with a load of friends, all who were sort of similar, had just about finished up the year prior. And I think we finished up 25th. But I don't think I have no idea. I'm going to take a guess. I think we've got the top 100 in us. I don't even know who I'm racing with. I'm actually rowing with 7 German blokes, one of which I know, the rest I don't. All have probably varying abilities. I think one of the lads went to London and the Rio Olympics, but obviously that was 2012 and 2016. So like myself, he's probably been out of the sport for quite a while. But no, it should be good fun. And I'm sure there'll be plenty of camaraderie and a good beer afterwards. So looking forward to that one. And then, yeah, Reading half marathon the next day. But back to I don't often negative split my half marathons. I don't think so. I was quite happy with doing that this week. And I just found my splits actually. And I'll just go for first 10K, second 10K, I think. And then obviously, I think I stepped on again for the last 1.1 kilometers or whatever it is for a half marathon. But it was basically, yeah, just under a 44 and a half the first 10K, and then a 43 for the second half. So, yeah, pretty pleased with that. And yeah, if we can do a similar one this weekend, I'll be happy. But we will see. If not, whatever it is, it's a long way from a PB at the moment, but I actually think I'm not too far off it, to be honest.
I reckon if you back yourself, you'll go significantly faster.
Yeah, I think a bit of weight loss and a bit of speed work. Well, I see speed work, a bit of conditioning over the sort of speeds I want to run at. I don't think we'd be too far away. So watch this space.
Watch this space.
So yeah, that's
going back to, can we go back to rowing? Because I think it's a bit of an unseen sport in that you watch it every 4 years at the Olympics. I mean, we don't. We're a bit more invested in that than that. But like, people only see it every 4 years at the Olympic Games when you're racing over 2K. There are some really cool rowing events across the world that have nothing to do with the Olympic Games. So like, number one is Henley Royal Regatta. That's still quite boring in that it's a side-by-side race for 2K. It's iconic. It lasts for like 6 days. It takes over Henley on Thames, and it's super fun, but it's not that interesting. You've done some cool races. You've done some very cool rowing races.
Yeah, I have. And I mean, Henley's probably more like it's like a Roth or Kona, isn't it? It's like a pilgrimage of rowing. It's the place to race at outside of the Olympics. And yeah, I've done some pretty cool races. I mean, when Red Bull come to the party, there's usually a good event. So there's a couple there.
Can you tell them about the was it the boar race? This was before I knew you.
Yeah, so I can't remember what they called it now, but there's the Severn boar within the River Severn, which sits in sort of Bristol, Gloucestershire, sort of
Wales.
Yeah, but it runs up that channel, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think it is Gloucestershire, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
But I think it's got the highest tidal range, or maybe this, I don't know. I think there's one in Canada which is higher, but I think it's got the second highest tidal range. So as the tide goes in and out, there's usually, I don't know when it sits, but when the moons align or all that malarkey, you get a big wave that you can actually surf along the river. So you can follow it for miles. And they did a race where we were in coxed fours, so a 4-man boat with a cox, and you had to outrace the wave until it consumed you and swallowed you, basically, which was quite an interesting race. And we won that, but we got absolutely, as soon as it caught us, we got absolutely swamped. Because I think it's at times it's like a 5-foot sort of wave, and when you're in a rowing boat, you're on top of the water, but not by a lot. So you can see this sort of big wave coming to chase you down the river, and I think we got 5, 6, 7 kilometers down before it sort of ate us up. But that was quite a good race. There was also another Red Bull one we did in Switzerland where it was horrible. I mean, I wasn't a runner back. I'm still not a runner, but I wasn't a runner back then, where you had to run with, so it was an 8-man boat, and it was through sort of the Swiss, I wouldn't say mountainside because we didn't quite go up the mountains, but it was definitely like...
It probably felt like it though.
Definitely hilly. And when you're carrying an 8-man boat, which is, I don't know, well over 50 kilos, probably, I think it's probably closer to 100, to be honest, along with blades as well. You basically had to row to a certain point, like a long distance, 6 kilometers or something, then run with the boat a few kilometers, get back in, row, and vice versa then for, I don't know, in and out for 3, 4, 5 stations basically.
And this was like, people are prepared specifically for this, haven't they? Because there was, so number one, running with a boat on your shoulder is walking with a boat on your shoulder is unbelievably painful. Running, if you're out of sync with each other and you get something like, because the carbon is super thin, it's probably like 2 centimeters wide, digging into the top of your shoulder because that's where it's resting, it's going to hurt like hell. And you've also got the blades that you're rowing with that are not attached to the boat, so you've got how many blades would it be? Well, it'd be 8 blades, wouldn't it? But they're long. How long are they? 2 meters?
And the rest, yeah.
So like that, it's hard running. Yeah,
so an 8 blade is closer to 3 meters, I think. But also, like you said, carrying a boat, it's not just, obviously it sounds, I think, close to 100 kilos. It's not that heavy in the grand scheme of things, but they're so, because it's carbon and it's so stiff, it really does sort of smack on your shoulder as you're running with it. Because, I mean, it's got to be able to take a load of, well, potentially circa 80 to 100 kilo blokes plus a cox. It's
and power going through it as well.
Yes, there's quite a bit of force that goes through it, so it is very stiff in terms of the flexibility of it. It just it's one solid piece. So yeah, that was good fun. We didn't prep for this at all. We thought, how hard can it be running with a boat? It's only a kilometre or 2, whatever each time. How wrong we were.
It was watching the results come through on that were hilarious, because these, like, your 8 was rowing so well. Like, you were without a doubt first or second fastest across the water-based pieces. You were dead last running.
Yeah.
Like, you were so far behind everyone else on all of the race segments.
Yeah, and there was this channel where we had to sort of run through this sort of bouldered area, and it was quite tight. And the guy, so we were borrowing one of our friends, one of the German guys' boats from his club. And the first thing he said to us before we started was, we cannot break this boat. And we ran through this bouldered stretch. And the first thing we did was absolutely smack one of the riggers of the outboard bit to the blade sitting, and absolutely smacked this boulder. And the whole boat just sort of stopped. But it was fine. We got back in. There were no issues with it. Carried on rowing. And I don't know where we finished. We definitely didn't come anywhere close to winning. We also took out the big inflatable Red Bull sign, which was fun. Right at the start, we carried the boat, smacked that on the way out, and took it with us about 20 meters. So yeah, there needs to be more of that. And I think going back to more fun racing, I noticed the World Championships within rowing now have got rid of a few different events to bring in the mixed 8. Which,
yes, I saw that.
Which I also have mixed feelings about. I think which is great, but I also think they need to mix the event in terms of the distances more than just the personnel. I think you could probably make it more like, give the women their own race, give the men their own race, that's fine. That's great to watch, but maybe shorten the distance, make it a bit more short and snappy and sharp. And I think it would make the racing a bit more interesting. People want close, tight racing. And even if, like, I always thought at Henry Royal Regatta, if they did a sort of under the floodlights sprint racing in the evenings, I think it would make it really exciting.
Well, there is a race in you'll know where do they do it, where they race like 250 meters on the Friday and then a normal regatta on the Saturday.
The Heineken, it was this weekend.
Yes, yeah, that they do. I think it's 3 different distances over the space of 2 or 3 days, which is super fun. But I also think, so unfortunately, the mixed 8 is just going to end up being the 4 strongest women in with the 4 like, it's not actually that exciting. What would be exciting is if they brought in a relay and you did a mixed boat class relay, just like it's, if we think back to swimming, the swimming mixed team relay is without a doubt the best event to watch, because you do not know who's going to win until the last 10 meters, and that's what makes it exciting.
Yeah, I completely agree. A relay would be I just don't know logistically how you'd sort it out, because it would...
Oh, absolutely no idea. It doesn't work, but it would be so good.
And I know they've got the sprint, beach sprints, are they calling it? And I think that's potentially in the LA Olympics as well, which would make it a bit more exciting. And you can, I think, swap people out of the boat a lot easier, because you're beaching into the shore and then jump in and out and sprint around a buoy and then run into a timing mat or something, which I think could make the format a bit more exciting.
Yeah, I figured out how to do a relay.
Go on.
So you definitely don't race over 2 kilometers.
No.
But so each boat does 500 meters, which is enough to do a race start, settle, and a finish.
Yep.
Realistically, especially in a single, you don't want to do any more than that. You have, it's an 8, so regattas are 8 lanes, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Not speaking insanity. You race for 4 teams. So you have alternate lanes. And then, so you've got like, say people are lining up in 1, 3, 5, and 7. 500 meters down, they're lining up in 2, 4, 6, and 8. So you get 1, 3, 5, and 7 racing down. As soon as they cross the line, the 2, 4, 6, 8 boats go.
Yeah.
And then while they're
6 lanes.
Well, then you do 3.
What? Yeah.
But then at the other end, and then that's like gold, silver, bronze, right? So that's then super fun. And then as soon as they go, the next boats line up. So then it becomes like, yes, it is slightly chaotic. And I don't like, boats are not necessarily, unless you're in a single or a double, they're not that mobile to move. But I think that would work. And it would be really fun.
Good. Well,
it would be chaos. It would be absolute chaos.
You could pitch that one to World Rowing and see what they say.
I'm so fine. I'll get a business proposal written for them.
But yeah, I'll keep you updated, and I'll take a guess of where we're going to finish. I have no idea because I don't even know what standard we're at or who's even in the crew. But let's just say, a top 75 would be good.
I mean, that would be really funny because I've only raced women's head once, and I'm pretty sure I finished like 95th. So yeah, you can beat me after you've retired. That was in my first year of rowing, to be fair.
Well, we'll see. I'm just hoping for some good weather. If it stays, you can probably see outside now. It's quite nice and sunny. It's a bit cold, but
yeah.
But anyway, enough about rowing. Let's get on to some more triathlon topics. I've got one question actually, which I'll tell you why I came about. That is sort of triathlon related first. So, whilst I was at the Bath Half Marathon, obviously both your mum and sister raced as well, which was great. So well done to them. But when I'd finished and came to see your dad to watch your rest of your family, I spotted, or me and your dad spotted, a lady walking or running backwards up the hill.
Ooh.
And I wasn't sure. I was just thought maybe she's, I don't know, it's a challenge. So it got me thinking, could you, and this is a you or anyone, could you do a backwards Ironman and be within the cutoff? So you couldn't do it on the bike. So the bike stays the same, but you'd have to swim in backstroke.
Oh yeah, fine, easy.
Yeah, for you, yeah, it would take me a day. But then run the marathon backwards. Could you get within the 17-hour cutoff if you were to swim backwards, ride the bike normally, and then run backwards the full marathon? Transitions, I'll let you stay in forward gear.
So I would think so, but only because the bike is forward, so therefore I'd have an absolutely enormous buffer. Because I would need the full time to get through a backwards marathon, because I would probably fall over and break my arm.
Yeah, I guess you'd happily do an hour of backstroke. Whereas I'd probably take, my backstroke's terrible. So
the only thing with backstroke is sighting. So you'd have to do a lot of flipping over onto your front to see where you were going.
No, you just follow the flags above your head.
Oh yeah, follow the flags and open water. Okay. Yeah, the sighting would be an issue, but then you'd also because you'd have to be on your front so much, you'd probably only do 50% of it backstroke anyway. Because you've
got to sight. I don't know how else you'd sight. Get mirrors.
We're gonna get mirrors,
like goggles,
on the bikes. But yeah, I am so mal coordinated that I could not run backwards, so I'd have to walk backwards, and I would definitely fall over.
But also, you could walk forwards for a marathon, but walking backwards is probably a completely different set of muscle groups. I wonder if it would be really hard. I think
it would really hurt.
But yeah, there's my question to pose. Could you do a backwards Ironman? And if you could do the bike backwards, how would you do it backwards? If that, how would it work? I don't know. I'm trying to think, but it only came to me about an hour ago. So, okay. Anyway, moving on. This week, I mean, obviously you've had quite a big week this week, or last week, sorry, Steph, in terms of training. Had a nice, few easier days to recover.
Yeah, so this camp's like January was like a get fit camp. This one is like a get race ready camp. So it means that we're managing the load like much more intensely, I would say, so that even though I'm training hard, I'm not getting into any sort of hole, because as soon as you're in the hole, it takes you a little bit of time to pull out of it. So I had a really big, so I guess I came onto camp more fatigued than I would normally. And we just kind of carried that load for a couple of days. And then from Saturday onwards was like, well, Saturday morning I had a 2-hour run. And then from that point until this morning, when I got on my bike, was recovery. And yeah, I've actually felt really good. So I was tired at the back end of last week. So the 2-hour run on Saturday was a grind. And it was one of those where you're just slogging it out, and RPE has increased a little bit. It was a beautiful day, but it meant that it got hot quite quickly, which is something that I'm working on in terms of being good in the heat, but I do feel it quite intensely. So yeah, it was hard, but it was good and I got it done. And then rode on Sunday, and I felt amazing. Like so good. My legs were so good. My heart rate was great. RP was low. And I think it was just like I'd had half a day off, basically, which I hadn't had for a couple of days. My body was like, yeah, this is great. And then recovery day yesterday. And then I was like, okay, yeah, I'm stuck. Like I can feel my body recovering. And I think it's really easy when you have like a half day off or an afternoon off to feel good, because you don't actually feel good. You're just less tired than you would have been if you'd trained. Whereas when you have a full rest day, your body, like the stress response disappears. You haven't got any adrenaline, you haven't got any cortisol. And then you realize, okay, I am actually tired and my body is actually trying to recover. So I always find, so yesterday wasn't a full rest day. I had an easy swim and a short, easy run, which like is actually like, I think in a camp it's quite difficult to, if you take your foot off the gas completely, your body does just shut down. You see it in the Tour de France or just any of the stage races. On their rest days, the riders still ride their bikes because it helps with recovery. So as long as those sessions are actually aiding recovery and they're there to prevent your body completely shutting down, then it's a good thing to do. And it was planned in with like plenty of rest and eating around it. But yeah, like got on the bike this morning, and we always say, Matt and I am terrible after a period of rest. My heart rate is high, my legs are lethargic and just like don't really want to get going again. They feel like they're still asleep. But got through the session, which was good, and executed it as it needed to be executed, which is literally all that matters. So yeah, that's been, I guess, my last like 10 days.
Yeah, and in terms of loading, obviously you've had probably, well, first of all, your 12 weeks, I think, back into training from when you had your 2-week sort of break off season. So I think it was week 12 ticked off last week, I think, from counting on Training Peaks. So we've had, you've had a good sort of build up from those 12 weeks. And I guess you probably hit probably some of your biggest TSS numbers consistently for the last few weeks, this last block. Yeah. So that's pleasing to see. That's good. Your body's tolerating the load, which is a lot better than we have previously. So that's positive. I think you're in a good place. Like I say, we won't know until racing starts, and that we probably got. Obviously, you've got another less than a week now till Sunday to the end of camp. So what are we on today? Tuesday. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So 5-6 days left of camp before you're back home. So I take it. I haven't looked at your training peaks for the rest of the week, but is it you've got a good patch there?
So it's again, it's one of those that we're not doing anything crazy because it's now 2.5 weeks out from racing. So and also this first race, we're trying to manage not having an enormous taper going into it. So I think Tim's thinking is, instead of coming home and needing a full recovery week into a taper, I come home, have a couple of easy days, do like 3 big workouts on back-to-back days just to like peak fatigue again, and then I come off and come into taper when we fly to the States, just because this is all in preparation for an Ironman.
Yeah.
So if I was just doing a standalone 70.3, I'd probably come home and head into a 2-week taper, because we know my body does really well off 2 weeks. It loves it. Because like I said, with the whole rest thing, I almost get well over that hump of I feel rubbish, and then I feel lethargic, and then I just feel good. So I for the Ironmans, my body likes 2 weeks, but we don't want to do 2 weeks into Oceanside if we don't have to then come back into training into Oceanside and then push out the taper for Texas. Like we're just trying to manage that. So tomorrow I've still got gym sessions to do after this. Tomorrow is a swim, VO2 swim, which is probably my least favorite session ever. I hated them as a swimmer. I still hate them as a triathlete. I can't, like, swimming fast for me is, I don't know why. I barely change my speed, but the effort goes up so much, which is lovely, so much fun. And then a hill session run, which typically is like some hard work up a hill and then some tempo, so nothing crazy, but just to kind of stimulate some higher cadence. Thursday's a big bike with a run in the evening. Friday I can't remember. Saturday's long run swim. Sunday is long ride and fly home.
And that is all with the preparation of obviously Oceanside being the first race. You mentioned we're obviously, I say, playing the long game. We're not looking to be peak fitness here in Oceanside. Otherwise, we'd have started training a long time ago and had a bigger taper. So, and I know we're not, or you're not at a point where we can sort of not come into these big races fully ready, but the end goal is the World Championships in October. So it doesn't matter where if it's just for you as an athlete, we can't peak for every single race. So it's understanding that and knowing that. So that also tapers our expectations and everything, would you say?
Yeah, for sure. But it tapers expectations, but also tapers pressure.
Yeah.
Because like I know the reason behind us doing Oceanside, and I know why we're going. I know what the intent and the purpose is behind turning up to the race. Therefore, I'm not going in being like, oh, I'm going to go and win. Because number one, I've got full respect for the women that are turning up on the start line, but also there's nothing in my previous racing that has suggested that that's going to be a thing that happens, unless I was in like shape ready to go and smash it to pieces, which is not what we want. I don't want to do that. That would be silly. And as much as sometimes we love silly and we love throwing caution to the wind, for the first race of the season in a prep block for an Ironman, I just want to go and have a great race and execute a swim bike run that sets up 2025 really well. And I want to be in the mix. And obviously I don't know how to race and not go for the win, because I just can't help it. I love to swim bike really, really hard and then hold on for dear life on the run. but that's kind of the intent, is to prepare myself mentally to race an Ironman 3 weeks later. And I think probably if I was more confident in my capabilities, we wouldn't be doing Oceanside, and I would just be doing Ironman Texas at the end of April. But I was the one that turned around and said, I want to race a 70.3 before going into an Ironman, and this was the option.
Yeah, and the way the Pro Series sort of works this year, it just happens to be that there is a Pro Series race in the same country a few weeks prior, so
Yeah.
it kind of fitted in well with the schedule, rather than just we want to do this race. But I've heard it's quite a good season opener. I know there's a lot of people who really speak quite highly of Oceanside. So I know Paula Finley seems to love having it as a season opener. So
I'm really excited. It looked amazing last year watching it, and American races always look after the athletes so well. So I'm super excited to go and experience that.
Yeah, and I was looking at your season last year. I mean, you started on the start line in Valencia, obviously you broke your wheel, but that was still probably like a month later than Oceanside is, right?
3 weeks, so it was end of April. It was basically Texas weekend, yeah.
So we're starting a bit earlier this year, which is good. Well, we'll see if it's good, but that's the plan.
It's the thing. We are starting 3 weeks earlier.
Yeah, and in terms of, like I say, Oceanside's not looking like it's going to be too hot. I mean, it'd be probably warm once you're on the run, but I think it can be quite a cold swim.
Yeah.
I think they moved it to the sort of harbour area last year. I don't know if that's a regular occurrence or not, but otherwise it's out in the ocean, I think, isn't it?
Yeah. I think two years ago I remember watching them surf waves. I don't know if it was 2 years ago or not, coming in, but they didn't last year. But yeah, temperature wise, it's not much different to how Lanzarote is at the moment, which is great.
It's once we get to Texas, that's where we sort of potentially could get the heat. I mean, it's kind of the turning point for Texas from what I've heard from speaking to people, in terms of the humidity and the heat. I mean, it won't be disgusting, but I think it could be for us warm.
Yeah.
So that's something that we've obviously got to prep for and plan for. So yeah, cooling strategies will be definitely have to be thought about, and maybe that's a topic we can discuss later on in a next podcast closer to Texas, maybe about how we go about it or you go about it.
Yeah, let's do that. That sounds good. For
cool.
Sure, because we've had some practice, but still making mistakes. So
again, so we will go with our what the buck moment of the week. So I was just saying before Steph rudely interrupted. We went with, for those listening, Steph had a coughing fit, and I've now had to re-record this patch. Russ Cook, the hardest geezer, is currently running the length of New Zealand, and Steph was just explaining it. And are you ready to explain it again?
Yeah, I think so. So sorry. He is running the Te Awaroa trail, which is a 3,000 kilometer trail that runs from Cape Reinga in the north of New Zealand down to Bluff in the south. It's super famous. What? Did I just do that the wrong way around?
No, he's running from Bluff though, isn't he?
Oh, he's going the other way. Yeah, sorry. So he's starting in the south and going up, but the trail exists obviously both directions. It means the long pathway, and it is a very long pathway. It's super cool, and we know someone else doing it. So I now know her name because Matt remembered it. Her name is Courtney. He met her spectating Ironman Kona in 2023. She had a friend racing. She'd flown out from New Zealand to support, and lives on a farm in New Zealand, but they sold their farm, and her husband and her 3 kids I think it's 3 kids, are walking the trail, which I just think is amazing and speaks so much to like what life means in New Zealand. I think, like, yeah, let's just sell our lives, pack up, and walk 3,000 kilometers as a family. I'd have loved to do that as a kid. That would be so fun. But yeah, so he is running it. He's the guy that ran Africa last year, I want to say, and it went like super under the radar. Like the media only kind of caught whiff of it when he was about 4 days away from finishing. But yeah, then just decided like, oh yeah, why not? I'm gonna go run New Zealand.
He actually started in Africa in 2023. Obviously finished in 24.
Wow.
But yeah, it was April 22nd of April 2023 is when he started. And he started in the most southerly point and finished in the north in Tunisia.
Mental.
That was quite a bit further. That was almost 16,500 kilometers.
Yeah. And he was doing loads of speaking tours and stuff for it. But he got like chased by rabid dogs and all sorts, as you can imagine, like running through the wilderness.
And I think robbed multiple times, held at knife point, gun point. I mean, yeah, pretty as if the run wasn't hard enough.
Yeah, exactly. But he's now doing New Zealand, and he'll be really pleased to hear that New Zealand doesn't have any apex predators. So there's no lions or bears or dogs.
What's the scariest animal in New Zealand?
Probably in the sea, orcas.
Yeah, pretty scary.
Yeah, they're quite scary.
But nothing on land.
No. No, because they don't even have like snakes or poisonous snakes. So that's why they really control at customs. Like when you're coming in, if you've got soil on your shoes, they have to be washed, etc. Like you can't bring stuff in from certain places in case they've got eggs on, etc. They really look after the biodiversity though.
The scary animals stopped at Australia.
Yeah, literally, they just keep them there.
So yeah, you can follow his progress. I think he's the hardest geezer on Instagram. I can't remember what day he's on now, but I think he's been going for give or take about a week.
He's probably nearly finished then.
Well, what's he running? He must be running at least 50 to 100k. 50k a day?
He's not running 100k a day, surely.
I don't know. He is the hardest geezer.
50k would be hard enough.
I'm going to try and find him on Instagram.
And it's not going to be flat. So I'm pretty sure you have to go through like all the mountains on the south.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it isn't flat because I think day one was, by the look of it, 50k and day two was 42k.
Just kicking off with 2 marathons.
But if you're going up and down, day 3, 4, 5 was 28k, 51k, and 17k by the look of it. But I'm guessing those 17 kilometers were either
probably all uphill,
a rest day, or also a lot of uphill and also downhill, because downhill is probably just as bad, to be honest.
Yeah. It'll hurt your quads, won't it?
But yeah, we'll follow his progress and see where he gets to.
He certainly will.
And I think we can probably wrap up there. So yeah, thanks again for the support and listening to the podcast. If you have got any questions or any topics you'd like us to chat through, then let us know. We will be back together next week, which will be nice and hopefully a lot better for the sound quality as we can both be on the mics, which will be fun. I will see you next week. No, on Sunday. And I will see the rest of you next week.
I'll see you on Sunday. See you all next week.
Right.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.